So the second story, and you may find that it's rather odd that I started with Lord Rama and then I'm now going to Revanth Reddy, but that's what life is all about. Unless we have the blessings and the prayers, I don't think any of us can succeed. That's my second story. Revanth wins in Davos. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy has hit the ground running, particularly when it comes to the economic health of his state, with a focus on creating employment. This was proven during his maiden trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos. It's a well-known fact that when it comes to inviting investments, politics can easily be relegated to the back burner. Even as Rahul Gandhi has made the Adani saga the kernel of his politics, Revanth Reddy also joined chorus and said,
భారతీయ జనతా పార్టీ ఎప్పుడు ఒక మాట చెప్తుంది, డబుల్ ఇంజన్ సర్కార్ అని. డబుల్ ఇంజన్ సర్కార్ యొక్క అర్థం ఈడున్న మిత్రులకు తెలుసో తెలియదో నాకు తెలియదు, కానీ నేను చెప్పదలుచుకున్నా. డబుల్ ఇంజన్ కా మతలబ్ అదానీ ప్రధాని. ఏక్ ఇంజన్ అదానీ, దూసరే ఇంజన్ ప్రధాని.
But after becoming Chief Minister, all was forgotten and of course forgiven, and rightly so, as Revanth is tasked with putting the financial health of his state in order. It's nothing short of a windfall for Revanth Reddy, as the Adani Group announced investments to the tune of 12,400 crores in Telangana in the next few years in green energy, data centers, cement manufacturing and aerospace and defense sectors. The breakup, if you want to know, is as follows. Adani Green Energy shall invest 5,000 crores for setting up 2 pump storage projects of 1,350 megawatts capacity. Adani Connex X data centers announced investment to the tune of an equal amount of setting up a data center campus in Chandanveli with a total capacity of 100 megawatts. Ambuja Cements Limited, which is of course part of the Adani Group, committed to invest 1,400 crores in a cement grinding unit with 6 metric ton a year capacity. Adani Aerospace and Defense planning to invest 1,000 crores in counter drone systems and missile development and manufacturing center at Adani Aerospace and Defense Park. Even as Chief Minister, Revanth Reddy assured the state government's cooperation in providing infrastructural support for all projects, Gautam Adani praised the Congress government in Telangana and said how investor friendly it was, and with planned policies, he said it should attract more investments. Revanth Reddy also added, and he said, and I am quoting him here, "It's a great pleasure to welcome the Adani Group to Telangana. The eagerness of Gautam Adani Garu to explore various possibilities and harness our strength is a welcome signal that top-notch conglomerates are eager to invest in Telangana. We have successfully shown to the business world that Telangana means business." After the Chief Minister, it was the turn of Gautam Adani yet again, who said, and I quote, "The new government in Telangana under the leadership of Revanth Reddy Garu has been extremely investor friendly and with newly initiated policies should attract more investments. Adani Group will continue growing in Telangana at a high pace." All that praise was exchanged, and of course money is going to come in. Apart from the MoUs, the Adani Group also agreed to support the Chief Minister's goal of creating skilling universities in Telangana by developing an integrated state-of-the-art university. The CM also announced that the 4th Industrial Revolution C4IR will be launched in Hyderabad on 28th of February during BioAsia 2024 with the theme of State Health Tech Landscape. The Telangana government is hoping that such a project will give a fillip to employment. Even as it is great news for the newly minted Revanth Reddy government, let's understand what makes Telangana so conducive, if at all, for huge investments. Let me now welcome all the guests in the studio. My colleague Sri, I can call you Sri, right?
Absolutely, you can call me Sri.
All right. And also Banu Chandar Nagarajan, who is a former consultant, World Bank, and who is an economist, is joining us, and we shall also be joined by yet another guest. But first up, let me start with you, Sri. You know, it is indeed a windfall for him. I think the timing is so perfect for him. I know that, you know, perhaps a lot of people will only look at it from the prism of politics, which I shall not do. But politics does make strange bedfellows, and I think economics and money and rather commerce makes even stranger bedfellows. So if you look at it, the kind of comments which has come from the Congress party, Adani was the kernel, the fulcrum of their entire anti-Modi pitch. But this has happened. A lot of people, even in the newsroom, asked me, how come? Why don't you decode that for us?
So, a couple of things are noteworthy about this, you know, Sudha. First thing, I don't want to, rain on Mr. Revanth Reddy's parade, but this is an MoU. It's a memorandum of understanding. In total, Mr. Revanth Reddy signed something like 36,000 crore worth of MoUs in Davos, out of which Mr. Adani is going to be the significant investment. So that is one. The other thing which I find noteworthy, so it's not really a check that he's come back with, it's an MoU, an intention to invest in Telangana, which is in itself is a major development. That's number one. Number two, I think it is also a great sign of political maturity on Mr. Revanth Reddy's part to show that ultimately, as the new chief minister of the state, he needs to do what is right for the people of his state, what it needs to develop. And don't forget, he has got big shoes to fill. You know, before his arrival as a chief minister, we had KCR and KTR, a very suave, Western educated minister, a face of the KCR government who was very popular with investors, especially foreign investors, and US educated, very, very slick. He made PPTs. He'd frequently go to Silicon Valley and he'd have investors eating out his hands. So if you look back, Telangana has actually been a very favorite destination of foreign investors. So I think it would have been Mr. Revanth Reddy's loss if he had not made this gesture and welcomed Mr. Adani into Telangana. And he said this is a welcome addition to Telangana's growth. Absolutely it is. So I think the lesson, the moral of the story here, Sudha, is that politics should not demonize wealth creators. It should not demonize business houses, because without them you cannot create employment. Without them the country will not progress, will not have innovation, will not have capital market wealth being created. So I think the states need to be partners with industry bodies and industry groups, rather than try and demonize them, saying that oh, someone helped him, so that is why he grew. So I think we need to take politics out of it and bring the good economics into your state, the investment which the people of the state need.
Yeah, which I think is also, Shri, when you're studying journalism, they tell you that there is a big difference between politics and policies. So, keep that in mind. Bhanuchandar, let me bring you in. Bhanuchandar, tell me something, that one of the reasons for, I think, that Revanth Reddy's come back with what my colleague says, like these are MoUs, so let's not jump the gun, but all said and done, it also creates a wonderful perception. The same argument was also presented about vibrant Gujarat many a time, but I think it creates the atmosphere, it creates the kind of the gravitas that a state has. Do you think that because Telangana is a fairly the youngest state in India, is it also because of that that industrialists see it as a very, very fertile ground to make investments?
Yeah, so it is the perception of common people that both business and politics are amoral. In fact, many people think they are immoral, but I think in this case it is amoral. They go where the businessman goes where there is a profit, and the politician does what he needs to do to stay in power, to administer the state well, etc., etc. So I think good for the people of Telangana. I'm glad that this happened, and not get caught in the petty politics of narratives. To answer your question in particular, Hyderabad has been one of the engines of Indian economy, by that extension even Telangana. So I think they've always been perceived as one of the investor-friendly states. So I think Revanth is just carrying on the tradition, though the political parties have changed, but the tradition of attracting investments, not being anti-capital, to say has been the feature of Telangana government. So it's fine. But also, he has couple of things. One is Hyderabad being one of the IT centers needs a lot of data centers for it to go to the next level in terms of artificial intelligence and data analytics and etc. etc. So I think Adani's investment in data centers is going to be useful that way. And second is Ambuja Cement is going to, at least the MoU says that it is going to invest the money in Andhra Pradesh, which will be helpful in generating employment, especially in rural Telangana, which we spoke during the election time. And also for the construction of infrastructure. So I think it's a good investment. Like what Mr. Sri was saying, let's see how much of these MoUs come to fruition. But coming to the politics of it, Mr. Gehlot has actually embraced Adani. Even Mamta Banerjee, during the Tajpur port, was interacting with Adani for development of it.
All right.
So I think there is this dichotomy between narratives and
interesting dichotomy, I must say, not a conundrum. I have to take a break, so I'm coming back. Mithali Nikor, economist and founder, Nikor Associates, is also joining us. Mithali, thank you for your patience. I'm getting back to you in barely a minute. Stay with us.
$392 pillars, 44 doors. Prime Minister prays ahead of the big moment. Special rituals in Ayodhya. All eyes on Ram Lala.
पूरी दुनिया उत्सुकता के साथ 22 जनवरी के ऐतिहासिक क्षण का इंतजार कर रही है.
Pran Pratishtha. Rolling coverage. Only on News9 Live.
As promised, the South Indian is back, and in a jiffy, this is what we are discussing today. Revanth wins, and I'm going to add that word, big, in Davos. In the studio is my colleague Shri. Of course, we are also joined by Banu Chandar, but like I promised, let me welcome Mithali Nikor, economist and founder, Nikor Associates. Hi Mithali. Mithali, your opening comments on the way Revanth Reddy seems to have attracted a lot of investment, particularly from the Adani Group.
So hi, and so glad to see you after some time, and glad to be here on News9 for this discussion. So we've been following the developments in Telangana for the last 5 to 6 years actually. So what has happened today, we should not look at it in isolation of the Davos conference, or this particular one MoU or two MoUs which have been signed. But this is actually a lot of effort that has been made from different industry groups as well as from the government of Telangana to attract this investment over the last few months. And what has been happening is that Telangana has emerged. If you look at the actual nature of these MoUs, 2 are in green energy, and then you have the one on power sector, and then you have one in cement industry.
Yeah, okay.
Now these are actually the industries which are very well known in Telangana. Telangana across the country has a competitive advantage in these industries since the last few decades. Now what this government has done well is leverage that comparative advantage, which the state has, and marketed it beautifully to Adani to say that, here it is, we are the experts in this area, we are the experts when it comes to green energy, we are the experts when it comes to cement.
All right.
And of course, if you're doing this, you can also do data storage.
Right. So which is, what you've started off is that they have done a great job. Maybe there are past, shared practices, if I may call it, and I'm not going to attribute that to politics earlier of KCR Garu and KTR Garu, but they have really kind of monopolized on what they already had. Shri, tell me something. But it's also a fact, Shri, that, Telangana is number 3 when it comes to ease of doing business. And this is something called the TSI pass, with the Telangana State Industrial Policy.
Right.
The investor is given all clearances within 15 days.
Absolutely.
Do you think these things work, Shri?
100%. 100%. Because see, if you're a business group, there is time value to money.
Okay.
Right. So if you are able to get all your clearances and approvals done fairly quickly, your return on investment improves dramatically. if a project were to take years just to take off, look at the kind of opportunity cost that I'm incurring as a business house. So the ease of business is critical for any business group to have confidence and come invest in a state. So and you know, Sudha, Telangana is one state which has consistently improved over the years in ease of doing business. It was not always at number 3. It used to be much lower, but over the last few years it has improved. Now it's at number 3. So I think there's a lot of work which has happened in the state, and Mr. Revanth Reddy has great momentum. There's a lot of wind in the sail which he can actually capitalize on. Let's not forget that, you know, over the last 20 years or so, Telangana has received $38 billion in investment, foreign direct investment alone. And even if you look at the Q1 of 23-24, when every other state has seen a slowdown in foreign direct investment, Telangana has seen a 61% increase in foreign direct investment. So there is a lot of momentum, and it would be Mr. Revanth Reddy's loss if you're not able to capitalize on this huge momentum that's behind the state now.
Yeah, because you know, recently, I mean, today there was also that in startups, Telangana is right on top. Of course, Karnataka is also mentioned, and so is Kerala. But I think Telangana has done particularly well when it comes to startups. So again, a very conducive atmosphere. Bhanuchandar, if I can have you on the screen, please. Bhanuchandar, the thing is, you know, considering that you can wear multiple hats, I want to talk to you about politics, and that being the 6 guarantees. You know, forget about what Reddy said, that, you know, they've created a crater in the exchequer. I have no money left from what the BRS stroke TRS, whatever they want to call themselves now, have done. But apart from the fact, isn't it a fact that in order for him to fulfill the 6 guarantees, they require loads of money, and you know, it's not going to be easy for Revanth Reddy going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one, there are tax revenues that will come from the businesses that are started there. Second is it's also going to provide employment. In Adani's investment, there are 2 kinds. The data center is going to provide white collar jobs, and the Ambuja cement part of it will create blue collar jobs. So I think it's a win-win that way. So I think the Revanth is doing the right thing. He's not demonizing capital. So he's investing, like what Mr. Sri was saying recently. Telangana has seen the highest FDIs flowing into India, and so it bodes well for the state, I would say.
All right. Let me go to Mithali. Mithali, tell me something. The other advantage for Telangana is the robust workforce and educated, which I mean, comparisons are odious, but then if you look at the north, perhaps you don't get that kind of workforce that you get where people are literate, they can manage even if you have to speak in English. Do you think that that really adds to the gravitas that Telangana has so far as investments are concerned?
So, you know, I would not say that it's only this factor. This is, of course, a factor, but that works for most of the southern cities. You know, it works for a Chennai, it works for a Bangalore, it also works for a Hyderabad. And in fact, now it also is starting to work for Kochi, which is also attracting investment when it comes to data centers. What works for Hyderabad and what sets it apart is the connectivity to other cities. For example, the Hyderabad-Bangalore connectivity and the Hyderabad-Chennai connectivity, it becomes like a hub, you know, and it operates in a hub and spoke model. And that allows, you know, investors and new companies who are coming into Hyderabad access to not only the workforce which is based in Hyderabad, but also attracting workforce from other, you know, cities that may want to shift there for, say, a better quality of life. Also, to be very honest, the congestion, you know, Hyderabad has got a much higher score on ease of living as compared to some of the other southern cities, and that also makes it very attractive for talent to come and live there.
All right, and on that note, I have to take a break yet again, ladies and gents, but I'm coming back, so don't go away, stay with us.
It was my 14th birthday.
On birthday, daughter waits
for missing father.
He was carrying a cake for his daughter.
49-year-old Birmingham-based
Indian diplomat vanishes.
He was grabbed and bundled into a car by 4 assailants.
KLA claims responsibility. Demands
Kashmiri separatists. Makbul Bhatt's release.
गोली मारो गोली मारो और फेंक दो.
And within 3 days, they shot him dead.
Abducted diplomat.
Found murdered in Leicestershire.
I said, who ordered to kill him? To me, he said, I ordered it.
And he never came home.
Stop searching. Start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus. Ahead of the curve.
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
Pakistani spy agency ISI's sinister plan to target India. Training women to honey trap top civil and military officials. Counter honey trapping ops initiated by India. But gullible victims still caught in the web. Top military intelligence experts break down the web of deception. Colonel Honey Bakshi explains the phenomena of honey trap.
जहाँ पे भी आपको लगेगा उनको लगेगा कि there is a person who is susceptible to women, who's making a lot of women friends on the social media. That is where they will make a spoof account and then start luring the person.
Colonel Pavitran Rajan decodes the psyche of the victim and the predator.
But when you go up the chain, no one enforces it to people at the top. That disciplinary regime and the security regime is not enforced at the top. And they usually have a public profile where it is much more easier to approach that person.
A News9 special on how modern technology has added teeth to the ancient spying tactic.
Our story takes you inside Pakistan's honey trap machine.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
And the South Indian is back after a break. That's what we are discussing. Revanth, how big has he won in Davos? I have in the studio my colleague Sri and also Bhanuchandar Nagarajan, former consultant with the World Bank and who is an economist, is joining us, and Mithali Nikor, who's economist and founder of Nikor Associates, is also with us. Sri, tell me something. Like you said, explained right in the beginning that look, these MoUs have been signed, whether they come to fruition or not. Not that we are being, naysayers, but we'll have to wait. But are they connected with the perception of an opportunity of employment? Because Revanth Reddy has spoken at length about how these things will lead to employment. Weigh in on that, Sri. I mean, will it matter really? Is there a calculation that if the MOU happens, then they'll be able to create so many lakhs of jobs?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the whole premise why we need investment to take place in industry, even if it's services industry and not manufacturing. Because ultimately it leads to not just direct job creation, but also indirect job creation, because an entire ecosystem springs up around any factory or any industry that comes up in any area. So there is a multiplier effect that comes in from investment. But I just want to go back to a point that you talked about, how Telangana now seems very conducive for investment. So we must not forget, Sudha, that this actually predates even the formation of Telangana. A man called Chandrababu Naidu actually turned Hyderabad into Cyberabad.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
So that was a shift that he brought about, and he became the CEO of Cyberabad, not just the CM. So I think, so there's a lot of effort and a lot of work that has gone in over the decades. And I would like to repeat that Mr. Revanth Reddy has a great state, great momentum behind him, and he should do everything to capitalize on it, and not just bring Adani, but also bring in other groups that are willing to invest in the state, and make sure that there's enough employment, and the taxes which he now needs to pay off for these guarantees, those taxes are created in the first place.
Great. Bhanuchandra, tell me something. We all hear about robust economic zones, kind of average economic zones. Telangana once again seems to be topping when it comes to robust economic zones. Do you think that is also one of the reasons for the overall impression, or rather the truth of attracting investments, Bhanu?
See, actually, there's a great competition going on, not just between cities in India, especially say Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Gurgaon, NCR region, but also like all over the world. There's a great amount of supply chain reshoring that is happening, and which is called in the business as China plus one. There are factories that want to move out of China and like set up their relocate their factories elsewhere. So we have international competition as well in Vietnam for certain products, in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, even Europe. So I think there is a great amount of competition, and every state wants to capitalize on this. You recently saw this in the investor meet in Tamil Nadu, where many MoUs were signed. In fact, if you read the news on various state capitals quoting Elon Musk to set up a Tesla factory here, you would see that all these bureaucracies of these progressive states are aligned towards bringing capital. So I think this is a very good feature. Various investment summits are also conducted specifically for this purpose, to woo capital, to increase their prestige as political leaders, but also in the process generate employment and get taxes. So I think it's a very welcome development. So yeah, I mean, India is just not, in fact, Hyderabad is not just competing locally within India, but also internationally. So I think it's a good one.
Right. Bhanuchandra Mitali spoke about the what M.K. Stalin had a big, about investments. So and there was a big chatter also about how he could attract so much. Of course, there was much politics about this is not as much as he says it is. But is there a particular study, or is there statistics about how the South is able to perhaps get more investment than other states? Because when the Chennai thing happened, they said, well, UP gets more because, they also speak Hindi, etc., etc. But tell me something, overall, do you think the South is, is kind of a little ahead than the rest of India when it comes to attracting investments? Mitali?
Oh, that's for me. Okay, thanks a lot. Sorry, in the beginning I missed that.
Not at all. Go on.
There is data available. So the data is actually published on an annual basis by the Department for Promotion of Industrial, Industries and Investments, DIIT. And in the data, it is very evident when we look at the data starting in 2002, actually, they started publishing these statistics, which is available, on an annual basis. It's very clear that the southern states are much ahead. And there is a reason for that. There's a logic for that. There are certain sectors for which, more and more investment keeps coming into the country. IT services is the #1 sector where investment is attracted into the country from FDI, like foreign direct investment. And if most of the IT centers, data centers, etc., are being established in the southern states, then of course we are going to start seeing more and more investment coming to the southern states. The second most important sector for investment is financial services. Now this is where centers like Gujarat and Maharashtra are ahead, because in financial services, these two states are getting most of the investment. So I would say that at this point in time, between Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, these are the 4 states which get the maximum investment, and then the second, spot goes to the western states, which is Maharashtra and Gujarat.
Right.
So since you talked about statistic, Sudha, an interesting bit, since 2000, there are 3 states which have garnered 68% of our FDI. Gujarat, Karnataka and Maharashtra.
Okay.
So these are three states that got a disproportionate amount of foreign direct investment for the same reasons which Mithali just mentioned. They're driven by IT, driven by financial services, and auto, which again is like, being there in south and west. If you take out a Maruti in north, largely all the hubs are in south and west.
Yeah. Also, Shri, I go back to this story which broke 2-3 years ago about this textile magnate in Kerala who was facing a lot of union problems. And Kitex, that is his company, later, at that time, KTR was around and he said, why don't you come here, shift, lock, stock and barrel. So there was of course talk about how do you do a physical shift, and also the textile industry requires a lot of water, you see, because for several things. But KTR made it happen in almost a month's time. Tell me something, how much of political stability in a particular state, and also what many people say abroad is that when you do not have sectarian violence in a particular, does that add to, investments coming in more easy?
So business as a rule, Sudha, hate uncertainty and instability. So the instability could be in terms of government, its policy making, its bureaucracy, or uncertainty in terms of rules, regulations, workforce. Because when you're a business, you're making a long-term plan. When you're investing 1,000 crore, 2,000 crore, 5,000 crore, you're obviously looking 10, 15, 20, 50 years ahead. So you need to have clarity in terms of how your investment is going to pan out. What are the conditions that are going to be necessary for you to meet the return on investment to justify that sort of investment? So stability, certainty is at the very core. That's what gives investors confidence to put money where their mouth is. So I think that's a sine qua non, if you ask me, for investment to be made in any state. And unfortunately, Kerala is a state which has invented the word no kukuli. A bizarre concept where even if you're not employing a labor, if you bring in labor from another part of the country, the labor which is there in Kerala will stand around, just watch the others do work and demand a fee. So this is extortion. So this is no kukuli is a bizarre concept. I don't know. So the government needs to be business friendly. It needs to understand what it actually is needed to make businesses viable and profitable, and stand by these businesses once you have brought them in. You have to create the environment for them to succeed. You can't bring them in and let them fail.
Right.
So that's the commitment which governments need to give. And people like KTR, even our Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a former Chief Minister of Gujarat, this whole competition of states, he started with Vibrant Gujarat. Let's not forget that.
Yes, absolutely.
It was this whole spirit.
Yes.
And he got Tata Motors when Nano factory was kicked out of West Bengal.
True.
Right. So you need to be aggressive. You need, as a chief minister, you have to roll out the red carpet. China has done that. Every other country. One of your panelists mentioned that we are not competing just against other Indian states, but we are competing with the rest of the world. Let's not forget that. People have the choice to go manufacture elsewhere. If they come to you, you should consider yourself lucky and make sure they have the right environment to succeed so that others also come.
Wonderful. Bhanu, tell me something, considering these are just MoUs, a lot of people may wonder that, what are the chances of all of them or some of them or maybe a tiny sliver of them coming to fruition? I mean, what does that hinge upon?
See, I think it shows intent from both parties. That's the memorandum of understanding. So I think they will work on the details. Nothing is assured yet, but I think we should appreciate that this is the first step of a whole series of steps before the investment happens and all the good things that follow also happens. One other point I want to add to what Mr. Sri was saying is that apart from instability and uncertainty, businesses also dislike bad infrastructure and fiscal instability as well. So I think many of the revenues might actually come into picture sooner than later when it reflects in poor infrastructure.
Yeah, which is very strange, no, Mithali. I'm going to give you the last question is that if you need a robust infrastructure, look at, Sri mentioned Karnataka, but then Bangalore is in a shambles. Every time. Don't you think that there is a bit of a dichotomy there, Mithali? Because everyone, Mohandas Pai, with whom I have had several, he said it's unlivable.
Yes, yes, and this is exactly why we are seeing investments go towards which is what we were discussing. It's going towards a Chennai or a Hyderabad, which are well connected to Karnataka, well connected to Bangalore, well connected in a three-city kind of ecosystem, and that makes it very easy for any of the private investors to go to a state like Telangana, which has a proper industrial development policy since many decades, and they have many industrial parks which have been set up on public private partnership mode, which is very innovative, right? Even Gujarat has many of the PPP parks, and so does Andhra Pradesh, and so does Telangana, and this is what sets them apart. And also I just want to make one point on the MOUs, because I was just in Vibrant Gujarat last week, and I was speaking there. And what we heard over there also was many MOUs getting signed. Now, in Vibrant Gujarat, the tonality has changed. They are not announcing annual investments in Vibrant Gujarat. They are announcing decadal investments in Vibrant Gujarat. They are announcing their whole strategy. Adani actually committed 2 trillion rupees in Vibrant Gujarat. So I think we have to also, just see that how different states are working when it comes to translating the MOUs into actual investments. This is much easier when your MOU is smaller and more short term, right? If it has been announced for 12,400 crores and it's only for 2 years or for 3 years, there's a high likelihood that it will translate. And that's what we are seeing in across states. Even in UP, you have a lot of MOUs that are signed, and yet sometimes there is a gap between the MOU signing and the actual investment. So I think that in Telangana, the real proof of the pie is going to be in seeing the translation of these MOUs, and I am very optimistic, because I really think that they are short term and they are very well thought through.
All right, okay. Shri, I still have 2 minutes to go, so I'm asking you this. Great start for Revanth Reddy. I mean, somebody who's won the elections, and it's been a tough election for him, also announcing the 6 guarantees and hitting the ground running, because he is fulfilling the guarantees, as it were. But to bring this, I mean, it's not sheer optics, is it? It's something which is going to add layers to his image as a proactive chief minister.
I think it, like I mentioned early on, it shows his great maturity. Although he's fairly young as a politician, it shows his great political maturity.
Young, but a grandfather.
Yes, young grandfather in that case. Yeah, and to go and handshake with Gautam Adani, a man he was going after during elections, I think it shows tremendous maturity and political realism, that the state needs all kinds of investors, not just one kind. And right now Mr. Adani is one of the most successful business magnates in the country. He's built a bevy of assets which are very coveted and solid on the ground. So I think he has displayed a moment of realism right now, and I want to congratulate him for that.
Fantastic. And on that note, thank you so much, Mithali. It was such a pleasure. Bhanuchandar, as always, thank you so much. Sri, thanks very much for joining us. And before the South Indian says goodbye, I want to remind you something about the South. Remember Migjon, the cyclone which almost nearly devastated Chennai and many areas in Tamil Nadu. Every time analysts sit around, experts sit around and figure, why is it that each time there are torrential rains in Tamil Nadu, roads are inundated, there is flood-like situation, there is loss of life and also infrastructure. That's the special News9 documentary that you will see once I say goodbye to you, and I'm doing that right now. Vanakkam. Stay well.